Stream. Hello, my friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family. Thank you guys for being with me once more on short notice. I hope everybody is doing well out there today. And can somebody in the chat room let me know you could hear me as well, just to make sure everything's functioning. Hola, señores y señoritas. Hey guys, good to see you all. Awesome. Thank you, Crystal Core Art and Healing. Loud and clear. Awesome, guys. So, it's cold here. Real cold. Real cold morning. It was like in the 20s this morning. I haven't experienced temps over here this chilly yet. But I guess we have to be ready for it.
Yeah, it's a little bit deceitful here because the sky is blue and the sun is shining and it looks warm. It looks cozy. But if you step outside, you're going to freeze your bum off. You really are. And maybe I'm just a little spoiled now. I'm from originally northern Idaho, so I do know what cold is. But I've been here so long. I guess maybe I'm getting a little bit spoiled. When I was walking outside today, I saw ice in the dog water bowl. Yeah, so that's pretty cold. It's cold a little bit early this year, I think.
Yeah, and as we're going to see, there's definitely a lot of records falling everywhere as far as the temperature goes. And perhaps we're in for truly what we've been expecting as far as the grand solar minimum.
Hi, everybody. Hi, Stephanie. Hi, Crystal Core. Hi, Tiger Baby. 311 Booyah. It's Ben. Hi, Ben. Loves Greatness. Modern Refugee. Rung Pill. Hi, you guys. Really good to see you guys here.
So we've been talking about just, what data can you actually trust? What data can you actually believe, When we looked at electroverses showing Arctic sea ice total volume, it was showing by far the lowest we've seen since 2003. But, what's really going on? Because we have all these cold records breaking left and right. And here we see, this is out of Technology Review, sea level rise could flood hundreds of millions more than expected. Princeton researchers found far more people are living closer to the ocean than previously believed. Of course there's a lot of people living by the ocean. Everybody loves the ocean. Well, not everybody, but so many people do. And, that's a given. And wouldn't you think that they would know the number of people living by the ocean? But the key thing is, again, we have those schools of thought. We have global warming, right? And then we have the grand solar minimum, the whole full ice age coming back. We are technically still in an ice age when we look at it. But what we're talking about is temperatures, that are going to be at 200, maybe 400-year lows. And we've seen what happens in these periods of time. Again, our friend Dave over there at DAP 2030, he does a great job covering all that. And, he's a really good guy. The info's there. We see, empires fall in these time periods. And we also see there's so much different things going on across the globe. It's hard to take any numbers seriously, especially when they come from the mainstream, especially like NASA, NOAA. But here you see, this is out at Princeton. By the end of this century, rising oceans will almost certainly flood lands where tens of millions of people live as accelerating climate change warms the waters and melts ice shields. But precise estimates of the vulnerable populations depend on precise measurements of the planet's topography to understand just how close to sea level communities have settled. And, that's that study. We also have another one over here. This one was published in Nature Communications, and it says as many as 630 million people could live on land that's below projected flood levels by 2100. And 340 million people currently live on land that will be vulnerable to flooding by 2050. So again, this gets to that whole point that, how big are these mass migrations of people going to be, and what's it going to look like? And that really feels very, very foreboding. And, is that part of the plan as well? And, is there other agendas going on at the same time? How do we trust all this when we're seeing things happen? We're seeing tons of flooding. That's a given. And we're seeing the wildfires going as well. And it is cold here, and it's been so windy. It's been incredible. But again, whose numbers do we trust at all? We definitely see there's intense change going on, and that change, seems to be getting more intense, and the wild swings from one extreme to another does seem to be getting worse.
Yeah, and as far as who do you trust and what do you trust, we can trust our own senses. And me personally, in this area, last year it was way colder than it should have been. So I'm curious to see what's going to happen this year. And then also, using common sense and just sort of looking at the data and keeping an eye out. But what we don't want to do is slip into fear, for sure. Absolutely not. Just take care of yourself, take care of each other, and keep being like really good. Like everybody here in the chat room, you guys are like super awesome.
And so, right now we're in Nevada. And since I've come west, we've spent most of our time in Nevada, and between Nevada, California, and Arizona. And so, we've been basically over here in the west and the southwest. And, for the most part, it's been very, very enjoyable. And, Fifth World says, old world dying, new earth emerging. And, we definitely get that impression. And as we said, we're talking about 2012 and the whole idea that many people, of course, always run with this idea of, the end of the world. I mean, we've seen the movies like, all those huge disaster movies like The Day After Tomorrow and the movie 2012, where it's just like immediate, just complete annihilation. And, maybe it's more of a slow and steady process that speeds up as far as the going from one age to another age, one world to another world. So, seeing Fifth World there, that's a reference. This is, the fifth world coming, so according to Hopi. So we've gone through this. And how many times have we gone through this? That's the big question. And boy, I sure would love to be able to see exactly what our civilization was like, before the Younger Dryas period, because I don't trust what they tell us mainstream. I just think that things aren't as they have said.
No, I wouldn't, and I do like to go back and look through the Hopi prophecies, and they talk about the roads and the spider webs and certain things, and it just appears more and more like the technology, like there was a previous technology and it was documented, but we're not really allowed to see what was truly documented. All we can go by is, well, with what we're seeing now, and look at the prophecy, and just kind of makes you wonder, what do they know that we don't? And that's not fair. It goes back to hiding our history from us, which if you don't know where you're from, how do you know where you're going? It's just not fair.
Yeah, there's a lot of prospecting in Nevada, and as we've touched on, 85%, because Great Scott just says that they be prospecting, 85% of the land here is owned by the government. 85% of a state is owned by the federal government. When I heard that, it just made my jaw drop. And, the reason why, I think, is the resources, for one. Like you're saying, there's a lot of gold here. There's a lot of all sorts of natural resources across the whole West. And when you look at the size of the West and the amount of the West that's owned by the federal government, it's incredible. Incredible. And then also, I think there's a ton of, deep underground military bases. all over. New Mexico, most definitely. Arizona, probably as well. Definitely in Nevada, definitely in California. That's part of it too. So I've shared with you guys, looking at some of the rock structures that we've seen, they don't look natural to me. I think that there was a society over here that was wiped out by one means or another. And there's a lot of evidence of it. We were talking about mud flood and Tartaria, and it's fascinating stuff. And I just can't get enough info on it. I want to just soak up everything I possibly could. And we'll also, start to do videos on those subjects as well. And, I hope everybody is subscribed to both channels, Evolutionary Energy Arts and also EEARTS, the second channel as well. Second channel, we go more into the spiritual side. We're kind of splitting it up a little bit because we're such a big family. So as you see here, this is EEARTS. And so just slightly different takes on it because we cover so much stuff. And there is a lot to talk about. We were talking about the sea level rise. We're talking about mass migrations of people. We've talked about different agendas. We know the numbers. Like yesterday's live got demonetized because of the topics that we're talking about. And so it was reviewed and confirmed. So, there's a lot of things that, as we said, they just don't want us talking about. And of course, we have the fires blazing, as we have been talking about. So you have the Easy Fire, 7,000 homes threatened in Simi Valley area, as 1,300-acre blaze burns near the Reagan Library. And this massive fire exploded on the hills near the Ronald Reagan Presidential Library in Simi Valley early Wednesday, threatening thousands of homes and forcing the evacuations of residents and animals, as strong Santa Ana winds blew through the area. And so this blaze, dubbed the Easy Fire, erupted around 6:15 a.m. in the hills along Tierra Rejada Road, just north of the library. By 12 p.m., it has burned about 1,300 acres, was threatening 7,000 residences, according to Ventura County Fire Department. Some outbuildings have been destroyed. Officials believe one residential structure was burning as well. About 800 firefighters were on the scene battling the flames, affecting an estimated 26,000 residents. Think about this. Really the situation has really spread. There's a lot of fires going on right now, and the winds are they're insane. They're incredible winds. Think about, you got 800 firefighters in just this one area right here. This is a big deal, and this is now turning into the third year in a row. And of course, nobody's happy with PG&E. How could we be? How could we be? As somebody had commented there, PG&E had called, let me know, hey, we're gonna let you keep your power. We're gonna let you keep your power. Think about that. We saw the breakup so many years ago of like AT&T, Ma Bell, and all that. And shouldn't this be maybe more diversified? Why do we have such power consolidated into the hands of so few? And that consolidation just keeps going on in so many different ways. It's most definitely part of the problem. And, PG&E, as we talked about, it's a company that's owned by the Red Shields, the Roth kitties. That they're obviously European. They're old European money. And, so I've seen people say, well, they're not as rich as you would think and this and that. But those are just numbers that they're showing, and they control so much. And of course, in this corporate world, everything could be separated out. We've seen so many, oh gosh, what would you use? So many underhanded tactics being done with, banks set up in the Grand Cayman, Cayman Islands and things like that. Hi, Sylvain. Good to see you. Hi, Mindfulness Project. Outlaw Bob Barker in the house. Awesome. Sean Martin. Yeah, it's all about money. It's money, power, and control. And I think it might even be more about power and control than even the money. when you get down to it, as they have so much money, just they don't know what to do with it.
Yeah, they have a lot more money than God, it seems. As much as they want. And the thing is they have control mostly because we allow it. And I think we allow it because, well, we use the medical system, and a lot of us, I know, we don't have an alternative, but there's little things we can do to start taking back our power, which would take away their money. I mean, every little bit helps, and I really think it starts with the self. But yeah, they kind of have power because we let them. There's so many more of us than them, and it's like a psychological trick. It feels like, because they know they've done this before, so they totally know how to handle us. And those of us that try to break out of the system, we get called crazy and rounded up.
Oh yeah, all different, and we're going to look at some interesting stuff as we progress along, talking about people that might appear to be crazy, but are they really crazy? And so many people have been herded into the different labels all throughout time. Hey, Barbara, good to see you. And as David had said, the Red Shields have more money than you could imagine. And perhaps, like a saying, hidden away in different areas. And yet realize, too, I mean, we've talked about this before. If there was a run on the banks, there's really only about 7% of the cash actually printed. So 93% of the money is just, it's not there. It's only digital. And hey, Stephanie. Yes, we have talked about colonizing the area with like-minded folk. And, I've been thinking about that again, as there's some people, not to get too far off topic, because there's some people that are in different circumstances. Like some people have no money, no resources, but skills and abilities. And other people have some money and some resources, but don't have the physical ability to work things. So putting people together would be awesome, and trying to, somehow, find people that are of like mind. And, oh, you know what? There's a lot of things we could do. Dave Lewis says, digital, you mean pretend? But so many people are so big on all the cyber currencies. And, me, especially when we're going into a period where we're going to be losing the grid, I don't know. I just don't get it. But that could be me. Hey, I'm 54 years old, so I'm not, as maybe with it as kids in their 20s and 30s and are really into, I'll call them kids, but they're not. They're adults. I'm sorry, guys. And younger people that really, as we were saying, if you have a computer problem and you're in your 50s, 60s, or 70s, then you want to get somebody in their 20s or 30s. And if they can't handle it, go get a 10-year-old, because they'll figure it out. Yeah. The world has just changed so much.
Definitely. My daughter, she's 11. She's the go-to. She's had one of those iPads since she was born almost. And I know that's not so good with the EMF and stuff, but really that's kind of what it is. Our kids are raised with this stuff, whereas we had some time to play in the mud and the earth and really get the best of both worlds, in my humble opinion. I think we're very fortunate to grow up that way. Like, I had goats and cows and horses, and oh my gosh, we lived on a farm, and I was little, but we butchered our own chickens and everything. So we really, truly were on a working, living farm. And so it wouldn't be so bad to go back to that. I totally loved it. I did. It was so fun. We named all of our chickens. I mean, it was hard to butcher that. It really was. But it's like, I couldn't do it. Honestly, I just couldn't do it. I couldn't do it when my son was catching fish like left and right, and then I just felt bad. So everybody's different though, and if you grow up on a farm, it's easy for you. But yeah, it's good. Like Bob Barker says, we must get back in touch with our organic roots, most definitely. And Great Scott says, putting all your eggs into the digital matrix would be a bad decision. Yeah, the grid's going down, guys. It's going to go down sooner or later. They've told us, and we see. We have there's so many things that could happen. CMEs, we do have
Obviously, the grand solar minimum that is occurring, and then obviously there's all sorts of things going on, with cyber warfare as well. We see that all the time. So chances are it's going down, and I think we're better off really trying to go back to old ways, more like barter and trade, getting out of the system. Out of the system. All right, Eric, we'll start the show now that you're here. We need to get out of the system. We really do. And we need to basically do our own thing. And, there have been, and this touches on what Stephanie was talking about setting up communities, people working together. Think about some of the things we've seen. That's not something that the powers that be want. They don't want us setting up our own communities where we don't need to use their system. If more and more people did that, like we've talked about Ubuntu by Michael Tellinger, we could actually take our power back if we got outside of the system and there was more and more of these independent communities setting up and popping up, not using the system or as little as possible, and then starting to work together, trading together, things like that, sharing their skill sets with each other. So Crystal Core Art and Healing says, just got the message that they lifted the mandatory evacuations in Sonoma County. Still a lot of people are in blackout. Yeah, the last thing they want, like Bob says, is they don't want us to quit participating. God, no. That's the last thing they want. They want to keep us so just basically working our butts off, to pay our taxes and to just survive. As we said, 44% of people each month don't take in enough income to even cover their basic needs. So, that really makes a huge statement. They want to keep us in that because then our heads are just down. We're just looking at, straight ahead. We're just focused on paying the bills. We're not thinking out of the box. We're not having time to be creative. We're not having time to go within, to pursue what we really want to pursue. And that is so sad. So the monetary system is set up to do that so that you don't have time to go on in and go within and to just even enjoy your family, talk to people.
Right. It's almost impossible when you're a working adulting, and especially if you have kids, that really takes a toll on the family because the moms are exhausted, the dads are exhausted, the kids are exhausted from school. To me, it's really been very deliberate in how they set things up. And Barbara was wanting to know our take on the California blackouts. Cindy and Mike, Barbara, I have this sneaky, yucky feeling in my gut with all the 5G towers and stuff that they could be making a case for like 5G because, if like the power lines are supposedly causing the fires, this is just my humble opinion, and there could be many reasons, then, maybe they'll have to get rid of the power lines. It's a setup for something. That's my opinion.
So one of our family members is an EEA family member, has actually he's actually bought a radio channel, and he's rewiring it and getting it all set up and ready to go. And so eventually, hopefully, we'll be able to be broadcasting over that. And again, that's the type of thing, that's the type of thing we have to do, is to keep getting the word out because, as we know, we have to be careful about what we say on the mainstream channels because then they take your money away. So you can't make a living doing this anymore, which will mean that eventually you get to the point where, you have to go back into the system, and work a mainstream job again. And that just takes away from bringing info to people and trying to wake people up. And that's exactly what they want. So, that's one of the ways that they do it. And so is SoCo more messed up than North Carolina? That's it. The fires are everywhere right now. So, and we'll go and take a look at that a little bit closer too. But yeah, it's all part of the system. And so, there's other channels out there that face that too. We've seen a ton of it. Most definitely. I've told you about certain channels that, the numbers are just crazy. Some of them have been totally taken away. You guys know BP Earthwatch, his just disappeared, and then he's redoing it again. And, I think we have to, if we want to survive, it's tough to always say what you want to say. And yes, Sean, this is exactly what it is. It's completely Orwellian. We have gone to light speed in bringing this Orwellian culture around us. It's developed so quickly. It's gone to such a high degree so fast. It's really kind of scary. Yeah, Brenda brings up, do you ever watch the show Jericho? Yes, I watched it years ago and then rewatched it a couple of times. And exactly, that's exactly it. Think about exactly the scenario we see in Jericho. And for those of you that don't know, go check out Jericho. It was a great little series. I think it was only on maybe 2 seasons. But the whole premise is you don't know exactly what's going on because the power is out. There's no grid. Nobody could communicate. And you want to talk about making people nervous when you don't know what's happening out there. It would be very, very scary situation, especially if it's long term. So, Searching for the Truth says Dutch Sense is reporting a steaming event happening at Mount Hood this morning. Yeah, I've been waiting for Mount Hood, Rainier, St. Helens, and some of the other ones in the West to go because it feels like it's only a matter of time. And, you wonder if there will be some quote-unquote triggering event. Look, and talking about movies and setups, there was a movie on Netflix called How It Ends. And, it was very much, it's programming. I mean, it's kind of, there's some major event. You don't know exactly what it is. Is it natural earth changes? Is it some sort of military maneuver? Is it, alien invasion? Who knows? And you're kind of left wondering, and it's up for you. And good to see you here, Betsy. So much predictive programming going on.
There is a lot, and at the same time, there is a balance there where you don't want to get in the mindset where, oh, the big one is coming, because that puts us in fear and that puts us in a place where we can be controlled. So I'm all about, what I really love about this channel is you guys have some really awesome ideas, back and forth about herbs and little tips and tricks. And I think that's what this channel is all about, is to bring us together, not necessarily to get ready for the big one, even though it could happen, but to just sort of stay on track as far as bringing back your personal power within, be your own guru person. Yeah. So I don't know. It's they have all the power right now, and they can control us with fear. That's our biggest enemy is our emotions in a lot of ways. So we need to stay stable. Oh, hi Stephanie, you're so cute. You could do no wrong. You guys are so awesome. I love you guys so much. I appreciate you guys so much, and I'm just super glad to see everybody here today. Oh, to awake will start a consciousness revolution, not the civil war they want. Right. Yeah, we don't want to do anything that's mean or nasty, and we got to stay calm, go within. I think the way out of this is to go within, deep within, do your meditations, your mantras, your exercise. And I know Michael has really helped me come a long ways with just energy work. And I tell you, a lot can happen when, you get your energy body working and moving. You tend to make better decisions, and life is just a little bit sweeter, I think.
It's wonderful. It really is. And so, as Mars Fool's Gold was saying there, we're going to have a consciousness revolution and, not be part of the uncivil revolution that they want, or war that they want. And as David says, love is the only way, nothing else. No anger. And, that's as we progress. As we progress, it becomes easier and easier. Yeah, there can be times when we will have, quote unquote, like righteous indignation about what's going on. And, there's times when it hits me and, it does make me angry. Although I'll just take it out on the weights or hitting a bag or something.
Mm-hmm.
You have to get it out, So we can't be pulled in. So it's like a trap. It really is a trap to pull us in. So I had a message from a subscriber, and they said that they wish that I would just focus on the positive. And there's enough people covering the negative. Just focus on the positive. And then I said, well, you're subscribed to the second channel too, because this was part of it. This channel developed in a way that I wasn't really anticipating it to develop. It just kind of organically went that way. And so it's become basically more of an earth changes and really like a change of the age. And that's something that, as a kid, when I was in high school, I was drawing like doodles about this time period. I knew all my life, I knew we'd be living in a huge transitionary period where all of a sudden the old life is just gone and there's going to be a totally different way of life. I always knew, going back to being a kid, that I was going to be alive in a time period of amazing change in which, kind of the end of one age and the beginning of another. So it's something that I've always known. Yet, we have to cover what's happening. We have to give our take on what's happening because so many people are asleep. The masses are still mostly asleep. They're waking up. They're waking up in droves. But for the most part, the masses are asleep. So there are those that are awake and they don't want to even think about this. There are those that don't want to know what's happening. They don't want to be affected by what's happening because they don't want their vibration pulled down. And I can understand that. If it's not part of your job, your duty, what you feel is kind of your inner passion and program, why you actually came here, to help people wake up and lift them up, is then I can understand wanting to just kind of, be in your own little happy box and just not be exposed. I could totally understand that. But, for those of us that we feel like it's our duty and why we're here to wake up people and to try to help illuminate people, then we have to be exposed to it. It would be easier to not be exposed to it and to just live a simple life unplugged or just focusing on the good. But unfortunately or fortunately, it's just, this is part of what we do. And we're trying to wake up as many as possible. Like on the second channel here, this is more, it's not covering the earth changes. It's more about spirituality and going into esoterica. Like if we look at the playlists, I left some videos, what's going on there, because I didn't want to take them down. But at the same time, the focus of this channel is all going to be about just transformation, ascension, esoterica, uncovering the mysteries and secrets, going deep into that, what's been hidden from us, and then natural health and wellness. And that'll include things like, working out and diets and, fasting, but also QiGong and things along those lines, meditation, yoga, things along those lines as well. So I switched this channel from being just a backup emergency channel when it looked like they were going to shut down the first channel, and just kind of split them up because we are a very diverse family. And some people don't want to know the news. They don't want to know what's happening. They don't want to know about the typhoon that's coming. They don't want to know about the earthquake or any of that. They just want to focus on the light. So this will be the light. And in the one that we are on now, Evolutionary, that's going to cover all the stuff that we were covering since the beginning. So I just wanted to share that with you guys as well.
Yeah, I saw someone in here mentioned, gosh, I like to give you guys, okay, David Lewis, by the time kids leave school, they've lost 80% of their imagination. And that's another thing that they do and they use against us is they teach your imagination right out of you. And if it's possible to homeschool, they've made homeschooling a lot easier. and I know your children are still getting that same information they would at a public school if you go with their curriculum. However, you can at least sit and talk to your child as the information comes in, and you can tell them, you know, your opinion on it. And me personally, my opinion on it is, I just, you know, I don't like school, and I am very honest with my daughter, and I do tell her, look, we have to get you through this or mommy can go to jail. It's pretty simple. But yeah, the school system will take the imagination away, you know, and they still teach that the pyramids are you know, for pharaohs, and it's just ridiculous, and there is hardly no truth. And you know, and they don't teach the real history. And I just think if we can reach our children, that's where it's at. I mean, even if your child doesn't need to go to public school, you know, try to teach them what you can about history and where it really comes from, and to keep their little minds open. Just keep them as wide open as possible. And I think that's going to help, because they are going to be our leaders. They are going to be taking care of us. And I want open-minded people to be, you know, close to me. I really do.
So many great comments out there. And David says only 1% of the light is visible for us. This will change. Wow, that's a great statement. That is such a great statement. I love that. And that's true. You know, if we're only relying on our eyes, then we're missing so much. And, you know, for instance, Cindy and I do a ton of meditation, a ton of mantras, a ton of QiGong. And we are seeing more beings around us all the time. And she was just saying that today. She was saying, oh, by the way, there was somebody in the bathroom this morning.
There was. They were standing over the bathroom sink. So, yeah.
And a lot of times, you know, there's beings that come in the bedroom. I mean, at night, too. I mean, they do. There's all sorts of beings around. And we have talked about the veil kind of lifting. I think really what it is just simply our vibrations are rising upwards. So we're starting to be able to see, just like a radio channel again, a radio dial. And you know how you turn it, you might be perfectly locked on one channel, and you start to turn it, that channel starts to fade a little bit, and you start picking up signals from the next one. We're there, where we could still get the channel that we've been on, but it's kind of fading a little bit. It's kind of feeling a little bit weird, maybe a little surrealistic at times. And we're starting to pick up on the signals that are just above, one octave higher, one notch higher. Those things we're starting to feel and sense and see in many times. It's all about frequency. All about frequency.
It is, you know, frequency and vibration. And what they don't teach us in school is that our bodies, we're actually plasma. And I don't know about you guys, but it seems like we learned a lot of things, but they sort of kind of avoid the whole plasma thing. And if we learn that our bodies are ever changing, and we can work with our energy fields and our like I do biofield tuning, and what it does, I use the tuning forks, and it makes you just more congruent with your surroundings. And a lot of the information that I did read from I think her name is Barbara Makiziak. I want to give her all the credit. She's a wonderful, awesome woman. And as she was putting the book together, there was a lot of information she couldn't get because it was a matter of national security. So our government knows darn good and well how much sound and vibration can help us or harm us. You know, I've heard of these satellite things where they can point at a crowd of people and just make people start vomiting and you know, just really, really sick just through vibration and sound. Oh, yeah, sure. Barbara, send Michael an email, or I'll get your email, and maybe we can do a distant session, because I do. Yes. Oh my gosh. It is so good. But you know, with the energy work and everything, I'm telling you, there's something to it. And they keep it from us.
There's a lot to it, you know, and with Cindy, that's how we met a couple of years ago when I first started the channel. You know, she was a client, you know, distance client, And, she's got tremendous gifts. She's very, very intuitive. She's very, very quote unquote psychic, very gifted. Like I said, she does see dead people all the time. So it's just, it's in her. It's one of her gifts. But when she does the tuning forks on me, it's really cool because it's just like getting a great energy session. And it kind of amazes me the things that she senses. I feel that I'm more like a weightlifter when it comes to energy. I could channel a lot of energy, but she has such a refined touch, and she could sense things in the outer aura like 10 feet away from you. It's crazy, but she'll sense it 10 feet away from you, way out in the outer aura. So that's a tremendous gift. And, that's one of the things too. I had a couple of people ask about classes because really I've only been doing just one-on-ones. I did do a lot of classes when I was in Ohio and I was working in a practice. So, I was running classes every Wednesday and Saturday, every single Wednesday and Saturday, both QiGong and also teaching and certifying people in Reiki as well. So I've certified people all the way through Reiki Master, and I'm a Reiki Master teacher as well. But really that was really the thing that was more of icing on the cake, because I've gone deep into medical qigong, also pranic healing, polarity therapy, and so many other ones, and kind of have my own system going now using different techniques from everything. And it's a lot of people have those gifts. Hey Jason, good to see you too. And it's just a beautiful, beautiful thing.
It is. And, it's all about the frequency, and we can do so much with it. And brings us back into 5G a little bit, where our energy bodies can really be screwed up. And I do like the tuning forks. I don't know the frequency they put off right here at the moment, but you can get them on eBay. And they are supposed to help things like with adrenal fatigue, and all those. And it really works really well with along with Reiki, because it's like our energy field is always listening. It's always listening to us. So as you're doing it, you just put in your mind's eye what you tell your body what you want it to do. And it's a little like soul retrieval, where it's going to pull you back into alignment with your original purpose. So, maybe we can put together a class and demonstration, like how the Reiki and tuning can work together. It would be really good for people.
Yeah, we're putting a lot of things together. Honestly, I have a lot more planned. We have a lot more planned as far as sharing with you, like what we do, as far as, health and wellness and fitness and training. We are actually putting together a good little home gym here, and we'll actually do videos showing you. Actually, one of the first videos I ever did was on a machine that's made by Weeder. It's very much like the one Chuck Norris always used to push. And so it's interesting. I look at it. Last time I had looked, it had maybe 300 views, and I looked again, and it was in the thousands. So, everybody wants, for the most part, unless we're depressed, we want to feel as good as possible. We want to be healthy. As we make our body healthier, it'll help us spiritually as well. And as you're saying, Mindfulness Project, talking about tuning the biofield. And so, again, check out EE Arts if you haven't checked out the second channel, because, we talk about that today. We talk about what is possible. People like Wim Hof. If you haven't seen this guy has set all sorts of, Guinness Book of World Records, doing things that nobody's supposed to be able to do, and yet he can. And he should have been dead many times over, and he's actually training people to do the same thing. And it's all through mindfulness and breath. And so, it's amazing what we can do. And just jumping back here, this is what we were talking about. Extremely dangerous fire weather conditions for California. 26 million people under red flag warning. And, it's, as we said, it's really chilly as well. And you see PG&E cut off power to about 1 million people in Northern California earlier this week in a, supposedly an attempt to prevent the wildfires. As we know, that hasn't worked out. And there's a lot of video here. I'll have all the links put up, You got 43 counties in California experiencing red flag warnings or historic wind events. We had talked a lot earlier in the year about what's going to happen with the winds. And really, that's something that I don't think I've touched on in a long time, because the line of thought is, as we go deeper into this, period, the winds are going to get incredible. And honestly, I mean, how can we deny what we've seen with the hurricanes and the, cyclones, and then all the tornadoes in unusual places, the incredible wind events that have been going on. Some believe, like if you subscribe to the, belief that we see with the Chan Thomas book, the Adam and Eve story, in that book, they talked about 1,000-mile-an-hour winds. In that case, nothing on the surface is really going to make it. The only people that are going to live are going to be the people that go underneath into the ground, like the Hopi were led into the ground by the ant people, the Anunnaki. Interesting coincidences there. So if that's the case, there's not going to be much that makes it through this time frame. But at the same time, so many of us feel more and more that, we just don't know what is natural and what is perhaps unnatural as well. Here you see astronaut sees devastating California wildfires from space. You see all the smoke coming on up. So largest is the Kincaid fire, which covers 76,825 acres. It's 30% contained as of the morning of the 30th. A lot of people, again, I think it takes a brave person to live in a place that's getting hit with these things now 3 years in a row in such a quote-unquote unprecedented way. But, hey, it's brave people that still live on the coast in, say, Wilmington, North Carolina, or, Charleston, South Carolina, or Florida coast, or, anywhere where we're seeing these massive storms, incredible events. And, I'm so careful about whatever words you want to use, when you're looking at it now, because we all got our suspicions about things. As you see the fires blaze across California amid rare extreme weather warning. And, rare is becoming something that's just every day now. It's just the way it is. Rare, is not so rare anymore when we're setting all these records everywhere we look.
It is setting records. That is one thing I notice that keeps happening is records setting here, records setting there. And I think today I just saw where in Montana, they already have like half of their normal snowfall is like 60 inches a year, and they got 31 inches. And I remember last year I seeing a picture of these poor steers who were in a storm, and they went to cuddle to get warm, and then they all got froze, and it was so sad. And like, that's just, I just, maybe, I don't know how much of it is now that we have all the information, we're getting more information, or are things truly changing? I'm actually not sure. I'm a little bit on the fence with that. I'm kind of thinking, well, I was here, like it is colder last year, and I'm curious to see how much snowfall is going to happen this year. It's just so slow and subtle, but it's definitely happening. So you guys are like super awesome. Oh my gosh. What do we got?
Searching for Truth says, we are all one. We are coming back to realizing that. And yeah, I believe completely that is really what's going to be the ultimate thing, is we're going from, as we've been equating it to, basically living in the solar plexus chakra, where it's all about, I am that I am, realizing our individuality. So now we realize our individuality, and the next step is to recognize the oneness again. It's kind of like a cycle that we go through. And, but yet it's not a circle, it's a spiral, because things move upwards, and as Free Flow says, everyone's gifted in different ways. We're all unique. So, the beautiful thing is, we have to move to a place where we're accepting each other's uniqueness, but then understanding the deep underlying reality of the oneness of all things, as we've equated it to, cells in the body. It's written, ye are gods. And, really there's a lot to that statement. And recognizing that, between your microbiome, which has 10 times the amount of cells that you have in your body, and the fact that you have trillions of cells in your body, each one of them is a unit of consciousness. Each one is a unit of consciousness, operating independently, but yet operating in unity. Otherwise, you wouldn't be alive in this 3D, or maybe it is 4D already, reality. So it has to recognize the wholeness. And it's the same thing with us. And obviously, we're not living in harmony with Earth at all. And that's really the system. I think many people want to live in harmony with the Earth. But the system makes it difficult. And when you have these corporations that get around law and just dump things wherever they want, as we've touched on, glyphosate in mother's milk, that's not good. That's not healthy. We all have so many different toxins in our bodies all the time. We have to be detoxing in every way, actually, physically, mentally, and spiritually. And Barbara says 4D is not a fun place. We need to jump to 5D quickly. Yeah, and if we look at it in the traditional light too, that 4D, when you're going into 4D, many equate it with the lower astral realm. And that's where these lovely beings like the Draco and other forms are. Many of the quote-unquote kind of demonic beings are there. So, it's interesting because there's prophecies and legends about there being a period of hell on earth. And it's almost like we have to go through that hell on earth period, that complete dark night of the soul, as a civilization before we could get to the other side, in which we're going to be taking a big sigh of relief. And thank God we made it.
Yeah, and that's another thing, that the dark night of the soul, where when we start to go through this, something I went through, oh my gosh, I think still sometimes I'm going through it for a good 10 years or so, a lot of struggle there. And they have us ready, for like those of us who are having problems. If we don't understand that it's ascension symptoms, we're going to go see a doctor and we're going to get a prescription. And unfortunately, a lot of times those prescriptions are going to cause long-term problems. And that sort of kind of happened to me. I didn't know any better. I was just really desperate. All I wanted was help. All I wanted was to just feel better, because I couldn't live in my own skin as things were. So naturally, I went to a doctor. But if I'd have known that there was other things that could be causing it out there, then I would have looked at those other things closer, and I would have been far more serious about it. I had a very dear friend of mine died. She was, 25-year friendship, and the doctors got a hold of her and they put her on all kinds of medication. And I, to this day, I regret, I took her to the doctor. I didn't know any better. So I think another thing is really important, that we reach out to each other, help each other when we're going through this dark night of the soul, because it's nothing really to mess with. At the same time, we don't exactly know what's going on. It's another thing that they keep from us. And I think they created the medical industry just for people like us.
Ask you a question. Have you ever thought about your blood flow?
Sometimes that happens. We have equipment that just sort of goes off. It jumps out. It just starts going.
So what that was, before we started, we both silenced our phones, right? And I have on my phone this live chat rolling, so that when I jump away from this and go to different pages, I can still see what's going on, glancing front and back. It's a brand new phone. And so the phone turned its volume all the way up, and it closed out the live chat. Interesting, isn't it, how technology works?
Yeah, we've had a lot of these little things happen to us, but, I feel we have a lot of entity creatures around us all the time, too. And they will go through things and manipulate the the equipment. It happens kind of often, really.
It's like when I made the second channel 2 and flipped it, I love this picture, because this is what I think is it's kind of like we're going through a veil in a sense, but then there's also two Earths. So, is everybody going to experience the same reality? That's a huge question. Is not maybe some, and there is this line of thought, that what we expect, we're going to get. So if we expect basically complete apocalyptical things, and not in the sense of the unveiling, which it was originally intended, but in basically like the destruction of 90% of the life on Earth, or even more, that whole 2012 scenario where, the waves are they're so high they're rushing up against the top of the Himalayas, then perhaps that's the reality we're going to actually experience. And then those of us that are focusing more on the unity consciousness and focusing on, the positive end of it, perhaps, the earth changes will die out for those people, and it will start to turn into basically that golden era once again on the planet. But perhaps it's because there's going to be more than one Earth, and then that gets into multiple realities, jumping timelines. I do feel at my core that we can jump timelines. I really think we can. I've experienced it a couple of times in my life where I went to bed thinking something horrible had happened, and when I woke up, it never happened. And it was like, oh, thank God. I mean, have you guys ever had that experience where you thought or felt that you completely jumped a timeline? Because I have, and I do think that's probably what's going to come, for many people.
I do too, and I think in many ways it's happening now. Like the timeline thing, that's happened to us, where we go to do something and take a look back and say like, wait, that wasn't there before, and we're both witness to it. So I do believe in the timeline jumping. That's a lot of fun, and our vibration and our frequency, we're going up and up and up, and it can be very uncomfortable at times, and that's where it helps to have channels like this and like-minded people, so that we can reach out to each other and even send out healing energy to each other when we're going through these really hard times. And it's not easy, and I really believe the system was set up to net a lot of people who have so-called mental illness, which really, that just makes me so sad, because a lot of these people are highly talented, highly unique, highly sensitive individuals. I know I am just super sensitive, and it's like a double-edged sword. I want to reach out to help people, but I have to isolate at the same time and go within. So then again, I've learned through the years how to create my boundaries and work through things that way. I'm very motherly, so I like to help everybody, but it's to a fault. If no matter how horrible I'm feeling, if an animal needs help, if a kid is crying, I'm going to get up out of bed and I'm going to go help them. And then I've made myself sick that way too. So yeah, we're all, and they don't teach us any of these things. They just use it to their benefit and send us into the medical offices. And, it's all about the almighty dollar, money, money, and more money for them. So you guys are like super awesome. I just love the chat in here. You guys are so sweet to each other. Aw. Hi, Julie. Hi, Chris P. Hi, Dave Lewis. Wow. Hi, Eagle Point.
So there was a question, what's ascension symptoms? There's a lot of different things that people go through. I remember, I got to share with you guys this too, because I was not so healthy in my early 30s. I was... as I've shared with you, I got carried away weightlifting, and my best friend was a power lifter, trying to keep up with him. Like right now, 5'11", 170, and probably that's a good place for me to be. Back then, I was 240, and, I was just pushing as much weight as possible, but I was engorging myself with all sorts of foods, and I paid for it, because I ended up rupturing 2 discs, squatting over 500 pounds. And then shortly thereafter, just when I recovered from that, I got Lyme's disease. And so I had this double whammy, and then also ended up, when I had Lyme's, I also got pneumonia. and actually had scarring in my lower left lung, where I had so much fluid in there it would slosh around. Every time I'd move, you could just hear it, just sloshing, feel it sloshing. And I thought, shoot, I'm not going to make it out of my 40s. I really didn't think I was going to make it out of my 40s. But those wake-up calls, they put me on a totally different path, and they started to get me to completely get into traditional Chinese medicine, QiGong, get acupuncture, study herbs, and just learn all about alternative healthcare and just totally jump into it full bore. And it was a life changer for me, a complete life changer. I'm not even the same person at all. And I think, too, when we're not on our true path, we're not on the path we're supposed to be on, that we set ourselves up for, I think sometimes our higher self, our soul, or you could view it as God or source or whatever, will take us out to go and do it over again, one way, shape, or form, And that's what happens. And Violet Mellon says, wounded healer. Yeah, there are so many wounded healers. It's like everybody I talk to, once you get down this path, it seems like they have the same sort of story that kind of motivated them. And what happened was I ended up feeling better than I ever did. It really, once I learned all this and changed my ways and started to focus on healthy living. Well, thank you, Sherry. I'm so glad that you're with us as well. So, it's like you want to share this with people because you don't recognize that, like, if you're taking in a lot of the processed foods with all these dyes, all these chemicals, high fructose corn syrup, things like that, it's affecting your emotions. It's totally affecting your emotions. It's affecting your DNA. It's affecting every bit of you, every single bit of you. So as we clean it up, we start to feel better, both physically, but also emotionally, and then also spiritually. You start to kind of clean yourself out spiritually either. It's pretty amazing, and it lifts you up in every way. And I just want to share that with everybody because I know how good we can feel once we change things. And so going on, just covering some more of the things that are happening, we see South Australia shivering through record cold October mornings. Late season frost and very cold mornings hits parts of South Australia starting around 27th. Some areas saw their lowest back-to-back minimums in more than 100 years. So this is now what we're starting to see is a ton of really cold weather. We still have abnormally hot weather in the summer, so it's the extremes. Lightning strikes leave 4 dead, 4 critical, as extreme thunderstorms rip up through South Africa. It's all over the globe. We have a yellow dust storm descending on South Korea. It's at a level that's over 4 times the level considered safe. And so the particles in the air include something called PM10. Not good. This is part of our sick planet that we're seeing as well. 5 killed, 2 missing, and 394 injured after that earthquake that we were talking about yesterday. So definitely this was something that was a pretty significant event. And we have at least 42 dead, dozens missing after a landslide hits Cameroon. We've had so many landslides. Now here we go again. We see explosion in Antarctic sea ice levels. May cause another ice age. So here again, we're talking about all of these things. Now Fox News, and quoting mainstream sources. What do we trust? What don't we trust? We each have to make up our own mind on that. And now they're starting to talk more about going into, this grand solar minimum period and a new ice age. And so you have computer simulations saying, this might be what's happening, when it's really easy to look through the records. And as we've said, going back 2 years ago, every period of warming is followed by an ice age. It's just what happens. There's always a cooling event that happens after. It's just like, the body gets a fever, and then the fever finally ends, and it goes back the other way. Early season winter storms spreading from Central Plains into the Midwest. Let it snow, let it snow, let it snow, guys. I tell you, I went outside today, and it smelled like snow. It smelled like winter out there. Very, very cold. Here we see the continental U.S. just sets cold as ever. October temperature record breaking the previous record from 1917. All-time record cold sweeps Alberta, Canada. More record low temperatures fall in British Columbia, including one from 1935, which was solar minimum of cycle 16. And here we see Denver, another record broken as temperatures plunged to near zero. And, why I didn't pick Colorado was just simply because of the cold, because I figured it would be probably too cold long term. And, if you could handle it, you could handle it. And I know Diamond and Rex, are both in southern Colorado. And Colorado is a beautiful state. It's gorgeous. And I love northern New Mexico, too. I so love Santa Fe. Beautiful place as well. Just feeling like long term, it's going to be tough if we are really going to get those type of cold temperatures that we're, hearing the grand solar minimum people forecast.
Yeah, I'm watching you guys comment in here, and Free Flow is talking about fasting. And, I always like to bring it back to trust our own senses. Like, who do we believe? Who do we trust? And we can trust what we feel, what we see, what we hear. And I noticed when I started doing the fasting, I was getting a little bit happier. And then I realized, I saw this thing on YouTube where actually it helps your brain synapses and your serotonin, norepinephrine, all those things go up when you fast. And it's not just with fasting, it's with other things, anything you do, like cooking a meal, the time that you're spending cooking that meal up into the point you take the bite, all those things are actually helping you with depression, because that's one thing that I fought with for a lot of years was depression. And they had me on medication, and I know that lowered my vibration, and it totally stunted my spiritual growth, because ever since I've been off, my third eye is back on. I can see and hear things that I could when I was little. And I think a lot of ways that they control our third eye is through those medications that they say will help us when we're depressed, which is, in my own personal experience, a load of crap. But I mean, if somebody really needs it, you really need it. I just know that there's other ways, and I wished I knew more. But don't we always? We all have to go through this journey. And the whole point and purpose is to help other people. So, I mean, if I say or do something that's going to help just one person out there, then, oh my gosh, it's worth it. And I'll do it again and again and over if I can just help one person get through this spiritual process we're going through.
Most definitely. It is most definitely a big process. And so, it hit me too, because, many people are people that have read the Bible. And so, if we look going back through the Old Testament, there's this cycle of basically these natural disasters that come on every time the people, quote unquote, fall away. And then, things get good, people get complacent, and then the disasters hit. And a long time ago when I was doing research, and I mean back when I was probably 18, 19, 20, it hit me that it seemed so interesting that there was these big natural disasters happening the same time there was horrible wars going on. And I think there's a correlation, I know there's a correlation between our consciousness as a collective and what manifests on the planet. Obviously, as we've talked about, if we live in harmony, peace, and love and compassion, I bet you the weather would settle down too, as long as nobody's doing anything to manipulate that. That's the big thing, because we know, that's going on. Betsy says nemesis. So that's interesting too. I mean, oh gosh, that's what I wanted to show. I wanted to show the results of the different, what was the word we used? Polls. The polls that we did. So that's going to be a good poll. I'm going to do a new poll today too, and ask, I'm curious how many people believe in, Nemesis, Nibiru, Planet X as being the prime cause of this? How many people believe this is, more of it's just a grand solar minimum thing? How many people think it's a pole shift thing? And then how many think it's just manufactured? That would be interesting. I can't wait to see the results on that one because, and so the Sun Nova too. I'm going to see how much, it usually only allows me so much choices. I think there's a lot of things personally going on at the same time.
There is. It's like, another way they control us is through confusion. It's like, so what do we believe? What's really happening? And it seems like they're coming at us from all different aspects in order to confuse, because it's yet another controlling mechanism. So I don't know, when it comes to that stuff in the sky, personally, I would just absolutely love to hear the truth, but I don't know if we're ever going to see or hear the truth. So all we can do is our best, and when all else fails, really all you have is to fall back on yourself and those people that you're close to and that you love and you trust. And, hence another reason for having this channel and all of us being able to get together and bounce ideas off of each other. It's not an easy process. When you start to wake up, it can get scary. You can lose friends, you can lose family, people don't understand. Unfortunately for me, my family, they're just so sweet and so kind and so wonderful. And plus I have you guys. But it wasn't always the case. I had some things happen that I couldn't explain. And family is just like, you're a rotten, horrible, awful person. But I'm doing my best through this whole process. It's just really nice to see all of you guys here. A lot of us going through the same thing. So who do you trust? Just trust yourself primarily. And then always ask the questions. Like, sometimes if they're throwing enough stuff at you, you start to get confused. Sometimes you have to just stop paying attention to that and go within.
Yeah, I mean, Cindy and I have had the conversation too, as Rodzor said, that there's something positive happening, which is why they're throwing all this negative crap at us, right? And yeah, because like I've said to her, and I've said, I really, 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 truly, truly wonder, what percentage is natural? A natural consequence, because I actually do think that we are going through an energetic area in the galaxy. And I think that it's triggering our changes in DNA, changes in our vibration, awakening our pineal glands, all really positive things. I felt a long time ago that they were fear-mongering about the sun for a purpose. As far as, put on your sunscreen. Oh my God, get your sunscreen on now. I mean, yeah, skin cancer is real. It does happen. But I got to wonder, is it an interaction with the chemicals that you're lathering on your body, or is it the actual sun, because the sun is giving us information. The sun's a relay. So if we looked at that picture again, comparing, the sun with the neural synapses in the rat brain, and we see that as above, so below. And I'm going to dig that up while I hand the mic to Cindy here.
As above, so below, as within, so without. So, it's really super curious how the brains and the stars kind of map out the same. And depending on what's outside of you, that kind of says a lot about what's on the inside of you.
So as we see this, the brain cell over on the left, the universe, it's just obvious. As we see each sun is just, it's just one small relay point in something much bigger. So in my mind, I feel like God, Source, Prime Creator, is triggering this evolution of consciousness in us. So the energy is coming from somewhere. It's going through all these relays, through these different suns, which are basically like a big neural network. And it's coming to us. And that's how this triggers the changes in our DNA and is actually changing our vibration and bringing us up into a new a new awareness, a new consciousness. So I think this is a positive event. I don't think it's a negative event. However, the powers that be that have their control grid around us, they want to make you fear the positive. That's part of the programming. You got to push you away from the positive. They do it in so many different ways. As we were talking about yesterday, it got pretty heated. They do it between by our political systems and also by our religions as well. But I view this as a positive, and I got to agree with you, Rodzor. What would we really see if there was no interference at all? What would really be happening here if there was absolutely no interference by the powers that be?
Right. What if we had support, in going through these changes? What if we had education as far as what was happening? So right now it's like we're going against the grain, and the grain being the system. So best thing to do is to rely on each other and, listen to yourself. Go easy on yourself. Don't give yourself a hard time. Nobody really knows exactly what's going on but you.
Soul Reviver brings up things going in and out of the sun. Yeah, there's been countless cases of things going in and out of the sun. And, in electric universe theory, it's a very different theory than the one we have been given by the scientists. And so, is the sun itself also basically a stargate? And so are different beings always coming and going through the sun as a gateway? And see, Outlaw Bob Barker was just saying the sun is a massive gateway. Why is the surface much hotter than the inside as well? And there's so many questions, so many things that I think that we have been taught that are actually just totally wrong. Completely erroneous. Yeah, Velikovsky again. That's very true. Definitely a stargate. And we've seen objects parked right around it. Dr. Claudia Albers talks of the stellar cores that are sucking energy from the sun. But the sun is getting, actually, I think, more intense. Because, along the progression, it's turning whitish. It is whitish now, and blue might be the next step, and then hello, red Kachina, perhaps, with a nova. It could make sense. It does sound like it might be right. There's so many different thoughts out there as well. And so what is the reality there? And another lady that I know that's super psychic, super talented, I did a video with her on her story, and her name was Ellen. But she died, and she was dead for, I think, 30 to 35 minutes, clinically dead. They actually toe tagged her and put her over by the elevator to go put her down in the morgue. And then she came back. But when I was at the beach with her, we were actually sun gazing as the sun was going down. And I noticed I could see everybody's chakras like I've never seen them before after sun gazing. Clearly, I could see all the chakras so clear. She was staring at the sun and just kind of smiling. And I'm like, what's up? And she said, there's these aliens there. She said, there's these big blue orbs, gigantic blue orbs, and they're doing something to the sun. And I said, are they doing something good or bad? She said, good. She said, because they're mitigating it, making it so the changes will be more gradual so that we will be okay. And I totally believe her. And she, at that point in time, she hadn't even really followed my channel. That's not like how we were introduced or anything. So I totally believed her because she didn't know anything about Nibiru. She didn't know anything about all these type of things. But you know what? What she described sounded an awful lot like what Corey Good talks about with the Blue Avians. And I recognize that Corey Good might be some disinfo as well. I'm suspicious of his connection to the military-industrial complex. But again, I do think they give us some truth, and then they try to give us a little bit of disinfo at the same time. But it just hit me that, wow, that seemed really authentic. Really, really authentic.
Yeah, and it's nice that we get some truth, and sometimes though it's just that little bit of disinfo, I mean, can just make the little bit of truth that they do give us completely irrelevant. Like what I think is ridiculous is when they tell us, the sun is causing cancer, it's causing cancer, and come to find out it's the ingredients in the sunscreen that's giving people skin cancer. And so, it's just not fair. We're not really on a level playing field. So it's really nice to have you guys to talk to and talk to each other too, and just keep on keeping on, one foot in front of the other. And sometimes if you don't know what to do, just do the next right thing. It's as simple as that, just to get through this stuff. We all have these struggles. And I think the sensitives, nobody's telling us what's going on. So really all we have is each other, but thank God for that. Thank God for YouTube. Even though it's kind of a struggle with the channel, they do give us ways to try to stay afloat, which is nice.
Most definitely. So we see here alien water from beyond our solar system found on interstellar comet Borisov. And every time I see a picture like this, I think Blue Kachina. Right? So, yeah, this comet's been interesting. And you got to wonder if, and then I also go automatically start thinking about Nostradamus is when the comet shall run. So it's interesting. So anyway, this is an interstellar visitor that apparently is more like a typical comet than we would have thought. And at least that's what they're telling us. Now, we remember when Oumuamua came by, it just, you see here, this diagram, it came in and whoosh, went out. It just used the gravity of the sun to propel itself off in a different direction. And, that's exactly what they would do if it was a spaceship of some sort, an interstellar spaceship. Borisov's not supposed to do that, though. It's supposed to just make a pass on by. So pretty fascinating stuff we're seeing. So apparently comets, whether they're, in our solar system or out of our solar system, at least this one, seems to be rather typical. Now, Ridgecrest earthquakes expose mysterious fossils. And mysterious fossil was found in a 600-pound rock that was dislodged by the dual Ridgecrest earthquakes and their aftershocks back in July. And so this is interesting. And, right away I'm thinking, hey, was it one of the giants? I hope. Yeah, but we wouldn't see that if that was the case. Instead they think it was maybe a whale, maybe not a whale, maybe, something else like that. Very well preserved vertebrae, as we see. It's approximately 15 million years old is what they're telling us. And see how careful I am to say that now, because everybody will always chime up. There'll always be somebody that says, it's not that. So Aztec breakthrough, archaeologists discover shocking world tunnel underneath Mexico City. Aztec house with walls of skulls explored. Pretty wild stuff. What is really our buried history? What is really the buried history? There's been discoveries of vast cities inside the Amazon where, there's nothing now really, but they found them because they're clearing it out. And, that's another problem entirely. But there were millions of people living in these cities in the Amazons. How many people really lived on the Americas at its height? We don't know. We really don't know. Unfortunately, as soon as we make discoveries, there's forces that swoop in and just steal everything that could give us a bombshell, and really give us an idea about our true history. So pretty interesting stuff. And of course, they always focus on the human sacrifice point, and that's horrible. And then we see this, and we were talking about schizophrenia and different diagnoses. I could see the demons, an exorcism in Arkansas. So her name is Amy Stamatis. She was left paralyzed below the waist after she plunged from the second story of her Searcy home onto a brick patio back in 2006. The circumstances of the incident were unusual. She had climbed into an open window, was sitting on the sill when she fell. She insists she did not jump. But for months beforehand, she had been struggling with dark thoughts. She had heard voices telling her to kill herself and sought treatment from doctors and psychiatrists. The voices didn't stop. Stamatis believed she was going through a mental breakdown. After her fall, she was lying in the hospital bed where she was visited by a woman who claims to have raised the dead and healed the terminally ill through prayer. The woman saw something in Stamatis no one else saw. She saw she had demons. Stamatis began experiencing strange ailments 7 months before her fall. She was wrapping up a 24-hour shift as a med-flight nurse at Baptist Health Medical Center in Little Rock when she was tasked with treating a burn patient. After wheeling him on a stretcher and completing a report, she found herself wandering the halls of the emergency room aimlessly. She had suddenly forgotten how to do her job. After I took care of him, my mind went out the window. It was just blank. That was her final shift at the hospital. Stamatis, a marathon runner, went home and was unable to run straight. She couldn't even perform simple tasks like picking out her clothes. She told her husband she was having a nervous breakdown, which began a string of visits to doctors and psychiatric hospitals. She was diagnosed with different mental illnesses. She said the doctors prescribed her antidepressants like they were candy, but the voices continued and her behavior became unpredictable. She stripped out of her clothes at a family gathering with her in-laws. During the visit to the hospital, she yelled at former co-workers. A particularly tense episode happened when she and her husband traveled to the Mayo Clinic in Minnesota looking for specialized treatment. While there, she broke away from doctors and climbed 7 or 8 stories up to the edge of a parking ramp and threatened to jump. Police and her husband talked her down, but the voices continued. The downtown Church of Christ in Searcy held a prayer service for Stamatis after she fell. Among those in attendance was Cindy Lawson, a Pentecostal evangelist who has performed about 10 exorcisms. Pentecostals call them demon castings, but the rite is fundamentally the same. And Lawson was not a member of the Church of Christ and had never met Stamatis, but she heard what happened and felt compelled to visit her. The Lord spoke to me and told me to go to the hospital to cast the demons out of her. She said I could feel something churning. Stamatis had broken her back in 3 places, punctured both lungs, and broken her ribs. She said the injuries indicate that she did not brace herself for impact. None of the bones in her arms and legs were broken. Lawson said when she arrived at the hospital, Stamatis was wide-eyed. I could see the demons, she said. A friend of Stamatis told her that Lawson was there to pray over her. According to Lawson, Stamatis, or something inside her, growled in response, "Why are you here?" Lawson brought out anointing oil and wiped it across Stamatis' forehead. "In the name of Jesus, I command these demons, release her and come out of her," and she comes into her right mind in Jesus' name. Stamatis' facial expression changed, and the Spirit of the Lord fell into that room, Lawson recalled. And so, medical versus spiritual. Symptoms associated with demonic possession, convulsions, hysteria, erased memories can look very similar to the symptoms of conditions like epilepsy and schizophrenia. Perhaps it's the other way around as well. So, exorcism rituals, which can include restraining a person, can be harmful, sometimes deadly, and we've seen that, especially for the mentally ill. 2005, a Romanian nun who had been treated for schizophrenia died of suffocation and dehydration during a rigorous Orthodox exorcism. In 2007, a 22-year-old drowned and a 14-year-old was severely injured during a family-centered Maori exorcism in New Zealand. New York psychiatrist Dr. Richard Gallagher works with Catholic priests to help them tell the difference between those suffering from mental illness and those who have been possessed. The same habits that shape what I do as a professor and a psychiatrist, open-mindedness, respect for evidence, and compassion for suffering people, led me to aid in the work of discerning attacks by what I believe are evil spirits, and just as critically differentiating these extremely rare events from medical conditions. He wrote in a column in the Washington Post in 2016. But careful observations of the evidence presented to me in my career has led me to believe that certain extremely uncommon cases can be explained no other way. So pretty interesting stuff, is it not? I don't know what your guys' take is on that. What fascinates me, too, is that it's not just the Judeo-Christian tradition. As I've shared with you before, in medical QiGong, it's loaded with this. And actually, there's many cases, there's many times that it really is the effect of some negative entities that are working on people. And it's a reality, and that's actually out of the Chinese system. And so obviously they don't call on Jesus, but they could still get rid of him. And I've experienced that as well. And I shared with you guys too that I was part of a paranormal research group for 2.5 years and cleared a lot of houses, and cleared a lot of places where there was definitely a lot of activity. And in one case, I had to bring in also a Gnostic, Zadok, which is the equivalent of a priest. And I've talked about him before because he wrote that book, Gnosis of the Cosmic Christ. And so he did distance blessing and everything as well to help us with it, because this was something that was much bigger and much older. And that was maybe about 6 years ago. Pretty interesting stuff. There really is things out there. There really are things out there that perhaps are from other dimensions, but they could be big and nasty. Most of them are no big deal, and they just disappear like nothing. But some definitely are. And like Violet Mellon says, shamans routinely extract attached spirits. It's just part of it, part of shamanism.
It is, and you can go into that shamanistic journey and do the soul retrieval, and you can get rid of the energies. And I know for me, the energy work that Michael's done on me has just been phenomenal. And I think it also helped a lot with like this. I had this low level depression that's lifted now too. But we don't give enough credit to our ancestors, the Native Americans who went in there. They knew what they were doing, and unfortunately they've really been kind of exterminated in the worst way, which is really sad. But there's still things that we can do, and this just proves, people, it's energies, it's ascension, it's a lot of things, and people are having a hard time, and the medical industry is just too happy to sit there with their arms open and say, oh, come here, we're going to cure you. And they have no intention of curing us. That's the whole intention, is to just keep us barely alive to make our next doctor's appointment.
I see that we have Bruno in the house. For those of you that don't know Bruno, has his own channel, and he's deciphered things in the Simpsons as well as others. Some people had been saying too, what's up with 11.3, and I remember listening to what he was showing about 11.3. I hate throwing dates out there because I don't want us to help create anything as well, and of course there were those that knew about 9/11 coming before 9/11 happened, and one of those is a person that met with a pretty bad end, just about a month after 9/11, and wrote a book called Behold the Pale Horse, for those of you that know him. And it's just one of those things. I don't like throwing power out there behind something that's going to be perhaps a negative occurrence. And also it's tough to chase dates, but yeah, there are signs and symbols out there, most definitely. And there is a lot of predictive programming, that is for sure as well.
Yeah, it's my understanding that it helps them stay out of the karmic circle, as long as they tell us what's going on. I don't think there's any rules about how they tell us, so they could tell us through a movie, through a show, and there was plenty of things saying that 9/11 was going to happen. And, other things with technology, like I was saying the other day, like Westworld, I think is a lot of predictive programming about how they control us and how they keep us in check. Because if that's the case, then a lot of us don't even know that we're being controlled. We are just puppets. And the best thing you can do in that case is, just again, go within, and when in doubt, be kind, act with love and compassion and kindness to everybody, because we don't know what the next person is going through. All we can really do is just be there for each other. Is super, super important. And people are going through enough hell, and I wish there was more support systems for people going through ascension. I really do. Or people going through dark night of the soul, and maybe it's all one and the same. but I think purposefully they've just kept that information away from us. I know, like this, there's CIA documents talking back in the 80s how the CIA knew our consciousness would rise up and up and up, and they were looking at ways to try to stop that, which isn't very nice. The CIA, they know a lot of things, and they don't they don't necessarily have to share, but some of the elites do to keep free of karmic consequences, really. And they do. So, it's always nice to have if there's a date or something, keep your eyes open. But most of all, just go within, go within, go within, go within.
Most definitely. And so that gets back to like jumping timelines and everything as well. And, okay, good. So Bruno, I'll email you or you email me, and then we'll set it up and I'll call you. And so we could have the conversation on the phone tomorrow and talk about it. And just, if anything ever happened, I would feel bad about not mentioning it to more people. And somebody had mentioned, who was it? That they were watching a video on 11.3 and then it was taken down. Oh yeah, Josh did. I watched an 11.3 video earlier, and mid-video was pulled and erased from my history, said the video doesn't exist. Oh God, I hate it when that stuff happens. That does make you think that there could be something, and obviously, there's been a lot of predictive programming. We talked about 9/11. It's freaking amazing that you see in a movie like The Matrix, which came out, a year before 9/11 happened, and his expiration on his passport is 9/11/01. Wow, there's so much of this stuff that goes on. There really is. It's pretty wild. And let's see, let's jump back over here. So that was an interesting one. Over here we see a tick bite led to a former senator's death. And here's what's known about the virus. And this is Kay Hagan. She died Monday at 66. Nearly 3 years after she was first hospitalized with what they said was encephalitis. And this is Powassan virus. There's been more and more cases of this all the time. I got Lyme, so I was living in Connecticut, and of course there is that research facility that was over there, the top level hazardous research facility with all sorts of stuff. Is just a coincidence. And, there's all these new viruses coming out. We talked about EEE, not that it's new, but boy, it was all over the place. Everything, really. So it's part of what's going on. And so, in her case, this was a 3-year struggle, and unfortunately now it's over in a negative sense. And so, really sad. And I think we're going to, unfortunately, be hearing more about Powassan virus, because I never heard of it before, and then there's been case after case after case now. Baby born in space could become a real-life Superman. And so we were talking about Asgardia, and so this is a group of people that want to set up these space stations and, have people living in there permanently outside of the Earth's rules and the Earth's laws, and creating, the stage for a new culture that perhaps will survive all the cataclysms that are happening on down here. So the question is, would a baby born in space actually have mutations, become a real-life Superman? Remember the story of Superman and all, because on his planet, he's not really super, but it's because coming here and the conditions are different, he is super. So what do you guys think about that? Because there is the thought, you have some people that think we can never space travel, we can never go to Mars, we can never, get past the Van Allen belts. And then there's others that think we're all over the place already. Humanoid life is everywhere out there. So what really is the truth? That's another question. And this is an interesting one. Unknown space station filmed above San Diego. Best UFO footage. There's video here for you to see it. A lot of people are watching this thing, and it's just sitting there. And it's curious. So we've also heard the line of thought that they really are now showing us a lot of the secret tech that they have. And so maybe this is not one of theirs, but it is one of ours. And so what do you guys think? I think there's a ton of stuff that's going to be coming out now. I think the vast bulk of it is going to be man-made, but I do think that there's some things that are interdimensional that are coming and going to be visible, and this is the Hidden Underbelly. So you guys could watch this. I've seen so many things. I shared with you guys before, videos that I got just here in the desert with so many orbs moving so fast, and every time I go out there, maybe it's time to do another video, just jump out in the desert and just film and see what we have. You see so many different things on the videos that I was doing out in the desert that are not easily explained. They're moving so fast, just wild. And so this is stuff that Soul Reviver sent in, just so you guys could see. This is in California. This looks like a perfect rectangle. A perfect rectangle. Oh, Bruno. What was that name? Yes. Most definitely. Only together we can make a difference. Much love, my friend. And I look forward to talking to you tomorrow. So what's this perfect rectangle right up in the air? That's pretty damn bizarre. And here is another photo of it. It kind of got me thinking about New Jerusalem descending, which is like a perfect cube. So what do you guys make of that?
I say time travel box. Definitely.
A time travel box, perhaps.
Yep.
Lots of weird things in the sky. Most definitely. So, my friends, I want to thank you guys for joining us once again. And as always, love your comments, love your interaction. And we'll do this again tomorrow.
Well, I hope so. That would be wonderful.
It would be. It would be. I want to thank you guys so much for your support. And again, invite you guys, make sure you're subscribed to both channels. And make sure you click the bell too. Because with their new algorithm, if you don't click the bell and do all, you might not get any. Because they've changed their algorithms. And this is part of how a lot of the channels are getting crushed. Because they don't go by that same system. They've taken away the power of subscription unless you click the all. Otherwise, they don't have to, basically send you any notifications. As so many people are saying they don't get notifications. And then come join us on Patreon as well, which has videos from both channels and also some exclusive videos that go up throughout the month as well. And for just $1 a month, you could also get access to those and help support the channel. So my friends, as always, may you be blessed with abundant peace, love, happiness, and wellness. Stay prepared in these times. God bless and namaste.
Namaste, guys. Thank you.